So right now, more eyes are all just turning to Pokemon, whether people are talking about the upcoming Ascended Heroes set, or whether they're discussing the new LEGO lineup. I mean, a few years ago, collecting was very niche, it was something more personal, but now it's become very loud and it's just everywhere. And I think this is gonna continue to happen throughout 2026 as it continues to grow, though the price shifts for certain cards are getting pretty big. And there's some big anticipation whether or not there's gonna be like a reversal period where prices start climbing again. And honestly, that's making a little bit of sense right now because we can see just how many eyes have just entered the Pokemon world because of the new LEGO set. And Pokemon generally loves to start the year off with hype. Ascended Heroes is obviously looking very big, but while everyone's just looking at what's next, does anyone ever bother to look at like older card prices? Because so many collectors are just focused on what's new and what's next and oh, the new most exciting set. But no one ever looks back at older card prices because they tell such a big story. Because in this collectible world, it's just so much, oh, what's new, what's new, what's new. And it just gets a little bit old quick because while you're trying to find these new chase cards and these new pockets of something amazing that's going to get released, you know, you can kind of miss out what's happening in the past because a lot of these card prices start dropping in price. So what you're overpaying for now and what you're so excited to get right now may not actually start climbing in price later in the future, especially because a lot of people care about that now. I mean, check this out. Here it is, Bubble Mew, one of the most iconic cards for the whole Scarlet and Violet era, one of the most iconic cards pretty much in modern Pokemon, really. It's become a very loved Pokemon card. Selling for $698 in September, and you know, it's just consistently dropped. Right now selling for $492. That's $200 off its high point. And people are just focused on the new. People are focused on what's the next set that's coming. That's where all eyes are fixated on, but we do need to start looking back at some of these hype trains and what happens. Still, Bubble Mew is super expensive. No one's denying that, right? And here we go, moving on to Team Rocket's Mewtwo. Really big kind of drops happening with this card here. Selling for a high of 581 USD. Massive price point for a very, very cool Pokemon. Mewtwo, top 10 most loved Pokemon of all time. Dropping down though, all the way to $412. That's, you know, close to $200 off that high point. That's massive, okay? So you do need to take these things into consideration when you're going so heavy so quickly because usually things take time. If a card's good and if a set's good, the best thing you can give it is time. A good example of that is Japanese Pokemon 151. Japanese 151, as you can see on that 3-month graph right there, has started climbing in price. Was selling for 180 US, right now selling for $209. Though Japanese 151 has had a long journey to get there. If I pull this into the year graph, you can see how it's traveled. It hasn't had massive quick spikes. And what I've noticed about the Japanese TCG, especially for a lot of the people who love collecting Japanese Pokemon cards, the price increases for Japanese cards are much more stable and much more steady. They rise far slower, but they don't have these huge drops, kind of like how English do. Last year was selling for $112, and you can see throughout the year, it just has had slow rises throughout the year. Nothing too crazy like what we see with English. And then of course, right now selling for $210. But an interesting one here is the Master Ball Reverse Holo, the Pikachu. And this one's actually been dropping throughout this year. Check this out. Had a high for 178 US, and right now selling for $130. Interesting point for this. I think the reason why the Master Ball Reverse Holos have dropped in price is because I think people just don't actually rate them as much as they used to. When they came out for Japanese 151, they were super hyped. They were super exciting. People really wanted them. They were like, whoa, a Master Ball, there's only one in each booster box? Now, people don't really care. With what happened with Black Bolt White Flare, even Prismatic Evolutions, people pull Master Ball reverse patterns and they're just like, yeah, okay, cool. It's not a special illustration array. And that is the difference. Whereas with Japanese 151, people love these, but of course the market has actually dropped in price some of these cards. Now, while looking over these Japanese Pokemon cards, it's actually a perfect moment to talk about today's sponsor, Buy. If you've ever tried to buy stuff from Japan, you probably know the pain. You go to checkout and then boom, there's no international shipping. Well, that's actually where Buy comes in. With Buy, you get access to the huge Japanese marketplace without jumping between a bunch of different websites. Buy is a Japanese proxy shopping service that lets you buy pretty much anything from Japan and have it shipped directly to you. You can literally just search what you want, such as Pokemon cards, and Buy pulls listings from a wide range of retailers and shows you what's available. Once you make a purchase, Buy sends everything to their warehouse, sorts it out, and ships it internationally to regions like North America, Oceania, Oceania and Europe. So if you're chasing Japanese exclusives, Buy is absolutely worth checking out. And what's so awesome is that all viewers on the channel can actually get 10% off their order if it is their first purchase. All details for Buy in the video's description. A big thanks to Buy for supporting the channel. Now let's jump back into the video. Now, moving on to the Umbreon from Prismatic Evolutions. Very, very expensive card in November, selling for $1,208. And of course, it has dropped to $939, which it's still under $1,000, which I suppose is yay. I mean, like, what do you say to that, right? It's still like, dude, so expensive. But then again, the pull rates for these, I'll put it on the screen right now so you can see what we're working with. They're very, very hard to pull. So if you're thinking about trying to buy Prismatic Evolutions to think you're going to pull a Umbreon, or if you think you're going to get the Sylveon, or if you think you're going to get any specific special illustration rare you want, think twice, man, because there has been so many, you can see so many content creators opening up Prismatic Evolutions. The chance to pull any of these cards is so difficult. So the price points, I suppose, are just a reflection of how hard they are to get, especially if people want these. Don't forget, a lot of people want Umbreon in their collection, but the chance to actually pull one of these, yeah, it's very difficult. Though, when moving on to the Umbreon Masterball reverse pattern, check this out. It was selling for $80 US, right now selling for $60. So you can see that there isn't that massive market for the Masterball reverse holos, even though they're super rare. Pull this into the year graph. There's so many of these you can pull. There is so many different Master Ball patterns you can pull from Prismatic Evolution. So don't think these are easy to get cards. And Umbreon's obviously one of the most desired Pokemon for this. But there you go. When it kind of, like last year when Prismatic Evolutions came out, look at what it was selling for, $366. And you can see throughout 2025 how much people just lost interest for these Master Ball reverse cards. And right now, you know, they're selling for $60. So what was once selling for 300 or 300 plus is now a bargain card. So sometimes, big lesson, wait it out. Don't just buy things straight away, or better yet, just save up and buy when you're ready. Probably in the time that you save up and you wait to buy the card, it's very likely you'll be paying a better price. That's actually something common that happens, but don't fall into this trap. I could actually pull up so many iconic chase cards right now if I wanted to from all the older eras, right? And you will see so many, like especially from like Temporal Forces or from, you know, Twilight Masquerade. You'll see a lot of those cards haven't had this massive spike in price. It's more that something that like people are just led to believe that that's going to happen, but in actual fact, it really doesn't. Now, another one, the Pikachu from Surging Sparks was selling for $350. Right now selling for $254, which is, look, honestly, if you wanted to add these cards to your collection, they are looking like they're at a pretty low point for what they've been in the last year. If I pull this into the year graph, you can see that the lowest the Pikachu had in the whole year was $253, which was July last year. And right now it's selling for $257. So you are looking at a yearly low for the Pikachu right now. So if it's a card that you want in your collection, like there you go, you are at a yearly low. Though here's the thing as well, because so many new cards are coming out, because so many more interesting special illustration rares are releasing, it kind of does make these look a little bit lackluster when you look at what's already kind of released. Back when Surging Sparks came out, this was more like a standout. Now it's probably wouldn't even be in like the top 40 artworks of the Scarlet and Violet era, with how good some of the, you know, cards from Prismatic Evolutions are, Destined Rivals, and so many sets that came after Surging Sparks. Though, here we go, I'm looking at eBay, and you can see the recently sold for the PSA 10 version of the Pikachu. There you go, one sold for $825 US, 19 bids for $827, and another one for 19 bids for $830. So, the PSA 10's obviously more desired because, and that has a lot to do with the fact of how difficult Scarlet and Violet era cards are to get graded, and same thing with Mega Evolution era cards. Then, you know, if you are collecting, or if you do like PSA 10 versions, they're probably good cards to own because they are difficult to get in that grade, especially with all the things that's happened with PSA. PSA's also become more strict, so they're not getting easier to get as PSA 10s. Though there is actually interesting cards, and like I was saying, there is some cards that if you do wait, you know, if you really wanted a card straight away and you waited, you'll probably realize that it's a good thing to just learn to wait it out for cards that you like. Here's a good example, the Terapagos from Prismatic Evolutions. Last year, when it released Prismatic Evolutions, the Terapagos was selling for $63 US, went all the way up to $78. And you can see right now, just waiting 1 year, what happened. Right now selling for $32. You can pretty much buy two of those what you could have bought it for last year. And that is a big lesson of what's happening here. And that's why sometimes playing it out and waiting it out, because all these new sets that are coming out, everyone wants the new, everyone wants what's next, everyone wants the next hype wave, the next big card, the next evolving skies, the next this. Just wait it out, because you will kind of learn that the game doesn't always just rise indefinitely. Like even though you're gonna watch content and everyone, myself included, we talk about when cards rise in price. We're talking about cards specifically rising in price during that time period. If you actually look at Pokemon cards as a whole, there's always cards dropping in price all the time. There is always cards dropping in price in Pokemon. Even if cards start climbing in price, there is a bunch of cards that are falling. Though at the same time, even when a lot of cards are falling, there is cards that are rising as well. It just depends where you're looking. It's kind of like you kind of have to change your focus on what you're looking at. If you really want a card and it just released and you can see the price is very expensive, it's just best to wait it out. It's very, very unlikely. It does happen, though it is very unlikely that it's going to be triple the price if you waited 6 months. That is for some cards in particular, but for cards like this Terapagos or the Iron Hands, or cards just cool like the Mega Sharpedo from Phantasmal Flames, you don't really need to act on it that quickly. You can wait, you can see if you're going to get a better price point. So looking at Prismatic Evolutions booster bundles, for the last year, these have had also a little bit of a drop. Selling like when it released for $109, which is ridiculous, and right now they're selling for $60 per booster bundle. Same thing with the Iron Hands from Prismatic Evolutions, was selling for $43 US, right now selling for $34. That's in the last 3 months, though in the year graph, it tells a different story. Was selling at a high point for $84, right now selling for $34. So there you go, there is big price drops. Don't forget, like I showed you with how rare specific special illustration rares are from Prismatic Evolutions, this Iron Hands is definitely a good value in terms of how difficult it is to pull. But then again, the market is not there for these cards. So even though some of these illustration rares and special illustration rares are absolutely incredible, the market really isn't there. And that's why, if you are collecting Pokemon and you like it, make sure to don't just try collect for what you think everyone wants or every card that people want. Try make it focused on you, because that way, like this Iron Hands, I love it. To me, it's such an awesome Pokemon, such an awesome illustration. It's actually one of my favorite artworks from Prismatic Evolutions. So that's something you do need to take into consideration. I do think changes like this will continue. And in fact, I do think that there's actually going to be 4 big changes to happen this year for Pokemon cards. And if you are curious to know what those are, I do speak about those in this video on screen right here. I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next video, and trust me, you're going to love it.